In our first video for our CCNP exam preparation series, where we're going to walk through all of the aspects to the exam down to the finite details of each particular technology, as you can see there. The first one we have is Vlans, and I'm going to do a quick overview, and it's going to be a 10-15 minute talk about it, and then we're going to get into the configuration in the next video. VLANs themselves stands for a virtual local area network. A VLAN is a logical subdivision, if you will. A VLAN equals a broadcast domain equals a subnet equals a network. So if you have a VLAN, you essentially have a broadcast domain, you essentially have a subnet. This empowers you to be able to separate your traffic logically in a switch as well as physically on a switch. What I mean by logically, you can have different ports on a switch configured to be in different VLANs, and you can have different physical switches having different physical VLANs. I hope that makes sense to you. But basically what you're doing is you can have certain ports of certain switches in certain VLANs so that you can separate traffic based on whatever type of traffic they're going to be forwarding, whether it's server traffic, voice traffic, maybe it's storage traffic, maybe it's server traffic, maybe it's wireless traffic. It really doesn't make any difference what kind of traffic it is. What matters is how it's configured. So if you have a switch, and typically your higher end switches like 6500, 4500 chassis device, those devices are going to be the ones that you're going to have in the core of your network. Now, we're not going to talk about the hierarchical campus design. That was in the actual theory videos where I actually went through an implementation. These videos are just simply going to be overview of what the topic is, and then the next, either the end of this particular video or in the very next one is going to be the actual configuration of it. I have the routers already configured with the appropriate IP addresses and so on. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the VLAN as we have been. So moving a little farther into what a VLAN is, as you can see, that's what a virtual LAN is. And a little bit more detail about it is VLAN numbers are defined by a 12-bit field, and 12-bit field is going to be the last 12 bits. And so the 12-bit field is going to go upwards from 1024 to 4096, and then next one's going to be it's going to go 512, 1024, 4096, and that's going to be your 12 bits. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, look at your subnetting from the last octet of a network, and you're going to know the last 8 bits of a subnet, or a subnet mask is going to be the class C. Those are the last 8 bits. Count 4 to your left. That middle one will be, you're going to have, the 9th bit will be 512, the 10th bit will be 1024, your 11th bit will be 2048, and your 12th bit will be 4096. That is how it's determined. So, and then you have extended VLANs. Default VLAN is VLAN 1, your FIDI and your token rings are there as stated. So creating VLANs is very, very simple. The iOS keeps them stored in Flash, not in the running or stored in the startup config. They are booted from Flash, so if the device is off, the VLANs are still there. The only way to get rid of them is to delete the VLAN.dat or the VLAN database file. This would be almost the exact same thing as getting rid of the ntds.dit file, which, if you don't know what that is your Active Directory services file database. So this is not an Active Directory video, but in case you were curious, which I believe is in the root of C in Windows file. But anyway, VLANs can be added, deleted, and modified in 2 different ways, either from the VLAN database mode, which is being deprecated. The only device I have in my topology that is able to do that is my 2950, which we will not be using. I'm actually just going to copy and paste it in there just to get it up and running. The other devices use global configuration mode to do it, and by doing it that way, they are able to add the VLANs pretty seamlessly. So yeah, that's pretty much where it sits with that. Now when you're creating a VLAN, you're creating a MAC address table per VLAN. So that allows you to add and to build your cam table in that regard. So as soon as you create a VLAN, you've created a MAC address table to forward layer 2 traffic in that particular VLAN. It's a logical subdivision or logical breakdown of your networks, where spanning tree comes into play with that, with being able to block certain ports so they don't cause loops. So database mode, that is the config you would use. You would type in VLAN database, and then you would catch VLAN 10, and you would be able to name it. It would show up as accounting. If you did not name it, it would show up as VLAN 0010, because the 10 would be the it's not necessarily being an A, which was what the 10 is in hex, but it would show up as 0010. And creating a global config, that is how you would do it right there. And actually, so you would go into global config, you type in VLAN 20, then you would name it, and then you can exit out and you can create a slew of VLANs at one shot. But that's how you would do that. And then you would do a show VLAN brief to give you the output. By default, every VLAN goes into VLAN 1, or into every port is in VLAN 1 by default, unless you go into it and you specifically add it to it. But we're not going to get into that yet. We're going to get into just creating the VLANs. So that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to jump into all my switches. I'm going to create VLANs 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60, and name them effectively. Doing that, I'm going to grab all my console cables, which is what tongue twister. Which is what I'm doing now. I'm going to start out with switch 1. I'm going to work my way down. So I'm going to bring up my console cable here, my console session. Don't mind the duplex mismatch issue that you see on the screen. Alright, switch 1. So I'm going to go to global config. I'm going to type in VLAN 10. I had to do this on an individual basis because I needed to name them. VLAN 10 name sales. Exit, or actually VLAN 20. You can go full all caps with this. Name accounting. VLAN 30. Name management. VLAN 40. Name customer service. VLAN 50. Name warehouse. VLAN 60. Name is guest access. I'm going to end out of here. I'm going to do a show VLAN. And there they are. So there they are effectively. Everything's there. And we already have supports associated with the VLAN. So I'm going to go up here, type in interface range, fast 0/1, fast 0/3, fast 0/5, switch port, access VLAN 1 for the moment. Because we're not actually doing any of this. Show VLAN. They're now taken out of it. We do a show run. Now you get to see my cryptography key. And let's see here. Alright, hang on 1 second for me. I'm going to show you guys how to quickly add in a group of information to a device, so you can just copy and paste it, and it will just show up like this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to slide this. I use TerraTerm for some of my consoling sessions. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to borrow this little blank area of space. I'm going to bring this guy over here just so you guys can see how this works. So what I'm going to do is global config. I'll type in VLAN 10. Actually, I should be able to copy it in from here and just erase some config. Yep, right here. So I'll just copy this information in. And I will paste it. And now what I'll do is I'll just do this. And same thing with this. And I'll pause the video while I do this just so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me do it. But this is how you would do it in global config. Alright, now that I got all this done, I can go ahead and just do this. I can copy from here down as soon as my mouse wants to work with me. And I can do Control C. I can come over here and I can just jump into switch 2 now at this point. And copy this config in. And go and just right click and copy. Ah, how about that? VTP mode server. Now let's try this one more time. Exit out of here and then right click. There we go. So, alright, and then switch 3. And this is how I do it when I'm on, before I go to a client's location for a consult, I always build whatever VLANs I think I'm going to do. And config T VTP mode server. Setting device to be, okay, it's a good thing I did that. I'm going to exit out of here. The reason I exit out is it's one less parser check when I go through this. So Control C. There we go. And then switch 4. You know what? I think I was having issues with switch 4 before. And I still am. Alright, so what I've got to do now is I have to go back to switch 3. And I have to, I don't know why it's bugging out on me. It's just weird. Ping 192.168.1.64. As soon as I can ping it, I can telnet to it. Okay, cool. So, I'm just going to copy this information down. Yes, I'll have to recopy it once I do it. And one thing I'll do is I will back over here and highlight and copy down. Ah, it's in client mode. VTP mode server. Alright, cool. So now that they're all done. So that is adding the VLANs. That was a pretty painless operation. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a show VLAN. And we have our VLANs created. I'm going to exit out of here and show a VLAN just to make sure everybody sees what's going on. VLANs have all been created. Jump down to switch 2. And I recommend doing this on show VLAN on a per implementation instance. What I mean, fancy way of saying, as soon as you do something, verify it. As soon as you do something else, verify it. Don't just assume that it took and everything's working. I'm using the same config I was using for the the layer 2 videos. Show VLAN. So a lot of the stuff you see here is still there from the other videos. So okay, we have all of these VLANs created. So that is a good thing. Now it said using the VLAN database mode. We couldn't do that because the devices just simply don't have that capability. So as a matter of fact, I don't even think it says switch 1 here. VLAN, yeah, it doesn't even support it. I could use VMPS, which is the VLAN Management Protocol Server, whatever they call it, which allows you to use an exterior device to manage it, but I don't even know how to get that to work. So, or what even how to begin with it. So right now, that's all that matters to me. So everything else is good to go from this point. So that is creating VLANs, which is what we needed to do, which was what we've done. In the next video, I will go into access ports, do a little bit of flyby review as to what access ports are, which is actually this video. So we'll go into that, and then we'll talk more about how to actually put VLANs into switch ports into VLANs and go from there. I hope this has been informative for you. I'd like to thank you for viewing.